Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa maulana. I'm sure you've heard of what's happening in the Middle East. If you could, specifically Iran, if you could share with us your views on the situation.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi al-tayyibin al-tahirin al-ma'asumin al-muntajabin. The issue of Iran has been on Western crosswire right from the beginning of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, under the leadership and guidance of Marhum Imam Rahmatullah alayh. And it's strange that now we are around the same anniversary of the success of the revolution. To understand the crisis that has been created by the US in the region, we need to spend some times with different episodes that dissects and deconstructs the whole story. Iran has become an enigma for Western political analysts because primarily what they are, I call them armchair analysts, that they really have no clue about the history of Iran and the complexity of life and to be able to decide. Western powers, led by the US and its proxies, which normally UK, France, Germany, and as well as local colonial settler state, the Zionist state, right from the beginning of the Islamic Revolution, stood in total opposition, and they did everything to undermine the regime and to make it either fall or change its direction. Among the things that they did was the 8 years war that they created by supporting Saddam against the Islamic Revolution. But I would like to start with briefly with what happened lately during latter part of December. There was a spontaneous protest by bazaris, and these are businessmen, that they stood up and asked for some kind of a policy from the government that would help the local currency, the Iranian currency, because the Iranian currency, unfortunately, because Iran economic market, it's not as strong as any other sites such as Turkey or some other countries in the region, and that is due to 46 and 47 years of economic embargo against it. Now, naturally is susceptible to what we call currency terrorism. Currency terrorism is something that has been happening ever since the Islamic Revolution succeeded, and particularly during the last few years. Now, two groups of people existed. One, first, the genuine concern about the economy, which was primarily the bazaris. The Western powers, they have a systematic way of attacking Iran's currency, and that was to purchase. This is everybody knows. Sometimes currencies change due to market volatility, but this had nothing to do with market volatility. This had to do with direct attack against the Iranian currency by the Western powers. And the way they did it, they purchased huge amount of Iranian rials and then flooded the market with these rials in a way to literally to execute the Iranian currency and to create instability in the market. Iranian tumans dropped from, say, equivalent to dollar from 140,000 to 160,000, which led to a number of bazaris and businessmen to have genuine concern and ask, what is the government going to do about it? I remember at that time, Ayatollah Khamenei made it clear, as well as the president in Iran made it clear, that these genuine concerns must be addressed. The problem that we had, and there were meetings between these genuine concern about Iranian economy. They met with the president, they met with the ministers, and even a group of them went to see Ayatollah Khamenei. That wasn't the issue. They said that these are genuine concern and we understand and we are trying to do something with them. But the second part, which was a group of thugs and Western terrorists, Mossad agents and others that came, literally rode on the bandwagon of what this has created in Iran, and their idea was to destabilize the regime and destabilize the system. They were trained, they were provided with weapon, money, and satellite satellite link that circumvents the Iranian existing satellite system or internet system, and ultimately leads to, with a clear instruction, to clear to create as much havoc as possible and to go out and shoot indiscriminately at anyone. Literally, they shot at police, civilians, even children at the age of 3. They were murdered because the idea was that they tried to create discontent within the country. These agents, once they were captured, and I'll explain how this happened, once they were captured, they admitted that they were trained in either Kurdistan in northern Iraq, or they were taken to one of the European countries, or even in the occupied Palestine. They were trained and they were given instruction to shoot randomly at anyone, burn banks, mosques, religious establishment, business centers, anything. The idea was to destroy the infrastructure that existed in the country. So, small financial market became vulnerable. Iranian became vulnerable to such coordinated attack on the Iranian currency. Now, the group that were combined together, we have what they call themselves as Mujahideen, and or we call them Munafiqeen, anti-Iranian regime, supporters of the ex-Shah, Mossad agents, and everybody worked together. The American government provided them with unique satellite access. This satellite access, for them to be able to communicate through that satellite, Starlink satellite access, that circumvents the internet that exists. Once Iranians realized what is happening through technology that they had and technology that they imported from either China, Russia, we don't know, they were able to block Starlink, which is primarily to do with Musk, the owner of the Tesla brand of cars. They were able to literally blind this Starlink satellite, and once the Starlink was blinded, so these agents provocateurs that they existed in Iran, that they were relying on being able to communicate using these Starlink, they found themselves unable to communicate, and the communication stopped. The Iranian government allowed one or two access to this Starlink to see who are the ones that are linking, and to be able to follow what these individuals, and one by one pick them up. And they did. Through these two or three free access to Starlink that they were fully controlled by the Iranian regime, they were able to literally trace these agents, Mossad agents, American agents, CIA agents, and everybody else, that they had been able to come into Iran with the sole purpose of starting violent so-called reaction against the regime and destabilize it. Now, the problem that we have to understand when we try to analyze Iranian complex political and economic reality is, number one, United States as the world most hegemonic power, as well as other what we call friendly or European countries such as Germany, France, and United Kingdom, they reject the presence of a regional power that works autonomously. And this was made clear by Marhum Imam Rahmatullah alayh, that we want to be autonomous, na sharqi na gharbi. We don't want to follow either the Western powers or the Eastern powers. And this is an anathema for the Western hegemonic powers, particularly United States, that they say they cannot accept any regional power that wants to be autonomous from the balance of power that has been created by United States. Now, because they are unable, Western powers are unable to work or accommodate in a framework with a multi-power rather than a single power that they want to establish, the crisis that we have today has been established. The inability of the Western powers to deal with Russia and China and BRICS and others, that they say the time for a single polar world political establishment has passed, and the gunboat diplomacy is over, and it's the time about multiple polars that they work. The sooner the West accepts that reality, the better it will be able to work with other countries. And the crisis with Iran is out of this particular issue, that United States in particular and its proxy powers within the region and in the West, they are not prepared to accept Iran to exist in the region because of its will to work autonomously. They have done everything possible from the beginning of the Islamic Revolution up to now to create and to undermine and destabilize, whether it is the nuclear issue, whether it is economic, whether it is war, whether it is technology. All of these are to undermine the system and lead to its downfall. We repeatedly hear of these so-called Shah supporters and so on, that America should go in, topple the regime, and allow us to run the country. Inshallah, it's not going to happen. But in the next episode, I'm going to spend some time more detailed analysis of what is happening, what is Iran, and how its political economic system works. Inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.